Good morning, Women of Purpose. I have a quick little word I want to get on and share this morning. I've actually had it for a couple days, but I'm kind of been waiting to see if God was going to give me a full message out of it or if it was just going to stick to just this encouragement. And for now, it's just an encouragement. Maybe later God will grow it into something more. But I want to talk and I want to encourage somebody that feels like, they've gave all there was, but there's been no reward. My life verse is Hebrews 11:6, that he who comes to God must believe that he is, and he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And though it's not about the reward, but the rewarder, there are still rewards for seeking. So there is a reward for the seeker. And I've always told myself, and I've encouraged people, be seekers. Be seekers. Seek after God, not just because he's a rewarder, but because he is the reward. Because there is rewards and there's benefits just from seeking him out. And so I was in the book of Esther the other day, and I just had it playing while I was picking up or cleaning. I don't know exactly what I was doing. I could have been putting on makeup, I think, actually. And something caught my attention. And I'm sure I've seen it before, heard it before, but it really didn't hit me like it did the other morning. In the beginning of Esther, Mordecai is in the gates. And while he's in the gates, the king's gates, he overhears a plan from some wicked servants, evil servants that had evil conspired against the king. And because Mordecai was in the right place, he heard the schemes of the enemy, and he was able to destroy, to annihilate, to cancel the assignment of the enemy. When the king heard this, there was no reward for Mordecai. He did a good deed, and that was great. It was like a good Samaritan kind of thing. But later in the book of Esther, we come to the point where Haman, he's furious now at Mordecai, and he says, you know what? I don't just want Mordecai gone, I want all the Jews gone. And his wife and the friends there in the house said, go ahead and build these gallows. We're going to hang Mordecai on these gallows in your very yard, make them this tall and get it ready. Get this thing ready. So while Haman, Mordecai's enemy, began to build the gallows to hang him, to bring him to death and destruction, God troubled the very king who had the authority and the ability to save him. He troubled the king that night to where he said he couldn't sleep. So he said, bring me the records. That's a typical man for you. I know my husband, it's a typical man. When he can't sleep, he's doing things on jobs or he's looking up, equipment. Typical man, right? So he says, bring in the records. And of all the records that was available for the king to hear, the recorder brings in the record that stated Mordecai spared the king's life. So the king had a question. Wait a minute, what was done for this Mordecai? What was done for this man? The recorder says, well, nothing. So the next morning he brought in Mordecai's very enemy, and he says, what would you do for a man that the king wanted to honor? And being an arrogant man, Haman's like, well, I would do this, and I'd put him on a donkey, and I'd put royal robes on him, and I'd parade him through the town and say, this is whom the king delights. So God is so funny, and he has a plan from the very beginning that he made Mordecai's very enemy lead the animal, the royal animal in which Mordecai rode with kingly garments, and said, this is the man in whom the king wants to acknowledge, wants to pay homage to, that he's pleased in. God had a very plan from the very beginning, even before Haman said his intentions to be ill towards Mordecai. God made a way in the very beginning because he allowed Mordecai to be in the king's gates. And he allowed those servants to talk in that precise moment, in that precise location, for his very ears to hear. And God made sure there was a way that he was able to get the message to the king, so that the king could hear that Mordecai had good intentions toward him, that he would help the king, and by relaying and destroying evil assignments, by relaying to the king the enemy's messages. It seemed like there was no reward for Mordecai at first. It seemed like he did all the seeking. He was continually going to the gates, continually going to check on Esther, continually being in the right place at the right time. But there was no reward just yet. He was seeking and seeking and seeking, but there was no reward. But in due time, Ecclesiastes says there's a time and there's a season for everything under the sun. Not only is there a time to hear the message, not only is there a time to help and to spare, but there's also a time to be rewarded. When Mordecai first relayed the message to the king and spared his life, it wasn't his season, it wasn't his time for rewards. But God would save that and he would store that for a time later, when it would fall to be his protection, when the reward he actually needed would actually be the covering over him, a kingly covering that said, this one is mine. I put him on royal animals. I parade him through the people. I dressed him in royal robes. There is a time, even when you feel like I've done all that I could do. I've served God. I've done all the works that I know. I've been in the house of the Lord. I've paid homages. I've gave alms. I've paid my tithes. I've fasted. I've prayed. I've went out of my way for people. But it's like there's nothing coming back. But I would tell you, don't give up and don't be weary, because there's a time to be rewarded. And there's a season of the blessings. When the storehouses of heaven are open, there's a flow. And they just don't stop. Not only was Mordecai saved that day, but was it within a couple days or a day later is when Esther made her request to the Lord, or to the king. And not only was he saved, but the whole generation, the whole ethnicity of Jews was saved. There was a great reward for God's people that time. There was a great reward for Mordecai. Don't give up in well-doing. Don't become weary. Don't walk away, because if you walk away just because you're upset, or you think God, you should be rewarded quicker, you feel like the blessing should come, then when you walk away, they will not reach you. You've got to stay planted. You've got to stay rooted. You've got to stay firmly in place, because when the rewarder comes to seek you out with the blessings and the rewards, you've got to be where he can find you. You can't say, I'm sick of waiting on you, God, because it's not about the rewards himself, but about the rewarder. You want to be graced with his presence. The presence of God is worth being in. It's worth the reward. So just like Mordecai, God may give you things. He may give you prayers to pray. He may give you a little assignments and missions. And maybe you'll be the waterer to someone else's seed, and that person will be coming to salvation. God only knows what your assignments are. But there is something that will come back to you. And God uses it in his plan for his glory. He uses it to destroy your enemies. There's a time and a season. There's a time to work, and there's a time to be rewarded. So I would just encourage you girls to get into the book of Esther. Go read the story. Let it speak to you. Let it minister to you. Let it seep into you to know that you are never overlooked. And at the right time, God will stir, and he will even get them up in the night, the people that he needs to use. This is that out of the bosom of the wicked, or the wealth of the wicked is stored out for the righteous. At a proper time, in a proper place, God will waken people in the night, and he will bring you to their attention. And it'll be those things that you thought was overlooked and you thought was never coming to pass, but it'll say, who was it that did this thing? Well, what was it? What can I do for this person? How can I repay back to them? But how can it be more? Because God is a God of more. So I just wanted to encourage you this morning, go to the book of Esther. Make that your study this week. Just read, just put it on while you're in the car. Put it on while you're cleaning. Let it read to you, because faith comes by hearing of the word of God. So don't just read it out loud or read it in your mind. Put it on. Hear it. See how perfectly God orchestrates things. See how the favor of God, when it's on your life, it can't be stopped. Think of Esther. I'm sure there were some more prettier than her. I'm sure, they said Vashti had a great beauty, but somehow little old Esther was the most favored, not just with the king, but with the servants. And God's favor kept making a way for her. Just like Mordecai, God's favor kept making a way for him. Whoever needs a favor of God and whoever needs God to move and you know, like the prayer of Jabez, bless me, oh God, and you know, to ask God to bless you, to remember you, go put it on. Because remember, my life verse that those who seek God, those who come to God must believe that He is. Oh, He is God, to acknowledge Him, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. So be a seeker this week. Seek Him out. See where you can find Him, because when you find Him, there's great rewards in Him. All right, women of purpose, be blessed, and I will see you guys